Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Dodge this.
To everyone that loved the movie Barbie, we got a treat for you today. Welcome to the Holy Moment Podcast, a podcast where we watch films with you. We discuss the moments that work, the moments that don't, and of course, the moments that reflect truth in unexpected ways. My name is Nathaniel John Lirio. Don't try and find my social security online with my full name. That would suck. I'm an editor based in Atlanta, a writer and director who loves movies and started a podcast with my best friend in the world, and also someone I went to film school with. Jeffrey, introduce yourself.
Howdy, folks. I'm Jeffrey Nichols, also a film school graduate. I act, I write sometimes, I fiddle with cameras, and I'm currently working at a furniture store. How exciting.
But you should tell them, I feel like the name of your furniture store is apropos for our movie today.
Sure. Love Sack. I work at Love Sack. Not to be confused with Love Shack, but...
Great song. I was in a musical, and I had a solo in The Love Shack. Love Shack is a little old plug. Anyways, besides the point. Today we're reviewing the movie, But I'm a Cheerleader. And of course, folks, this pick would not have been my first pick, or I assume Jeffrey's first pick, but the reason we're watching it is because of our lovely, lovely deceased co-host, Christopher Vega, who's no longer with us. Not because he died. Yeah. Peace, my dear brother. No, he's not dead. He just works a lot. But yeah, we're reviewing the great movie, But I'm a Cheerleader. Let's get into the facts about it. This movie was the director debut. Did you know this was the director's first film, Jeffrey?
I did not know that.
I guess we can kind of get into it a little bit, but like, impressed, not impressed, just from like a directing standpoint? Do you think it's a solid debut?
I think it's very impressive. I think that it is very entertaining, and it makes sense that it would have sticking power. I actually don't know what general consensus is on this movie.
I think it's kind of a cult classic. It has a high Letterboxd review, which I'm not saying is everything, but I think it kind of went into the cult classic film zeitgeist. But our director is Jamie Babbit, which is a fun name. You want to know my favorite fact I found out about this movie during research?
What?
When I was on the Wikipedia page, typing up all of my notes, the very last entry on Jamie Babbitt's Wikipedia page is Babbit is a lesbian. Just kind of by itself as a full sentence statement, just Babbit is a lesbian. Just imagine if you had a Wikipedia page that says Nichols is gay. Just think it was funny.
That would be very interesting, but you know what? I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I also was not. I feel like to make a movie like this, you have to like care deeply about this community.
Absolutely.
And so I was not surprised when I found out she was a lesbian. I mean, representing her people. This movie almost came out on my birthday, September 12th, 1999. I am August 30th, 1999. Again, don't go look for my social security number. Other movies that she has done all after But I'm a Cheerleader, because it's her first film, is The Quiet, which is a drama, The Itty Bitty Titty Committee, Breaking the Girls, Addiction to Frensico, and The Stand-In. Haven't seen any of these movies. I've seen people reference, specifically there's a Bob's Burger episode that references The Itty Bitty Titty Committee. But besides that, I've never heard of any of these movies. How about you?
Those are some fun names. No, I've never heard of any of these movies, although I have heard the phrase Itty Bitty Titty Committee before. And so now I have more context as to where it came from. Or maybe that movie was referencing an already existing phrase. I don't know.
We should watch that movie next, and then we'll know. Yeah, because I guess that is kind of a phrase. Did she coin it? That would be fun. Hey, what are you known for? I'm a famous filmmaker, but also I coined the term Itty Titty Bitty Committee.
Put that on my gravestone, right? If that's honestly me, put it on my gravestone. Well, I want to say though, 1999. I was surprised that this movie came out in 1999. I wasn't surprised as soon as I started watching the movie, but hearing the premise, right? It's very forward, very progressive in a way that I wouldn't expect from this era of movies. Especially because the last movie like this, it's actually very different, but it handles similar or adjacent subject matter. The last movie that Vega recommended that follows this same theming is I Saw the TV Glow. And that is a more recent movie.
Yeah, I mean, I Saw TV Glow 2023, and this is 1999. This movie was definitely ahead of the curve with its like satire and talking about just the far right wing and how they treat the LGBT community. very ahead of its curve, which is one of my first questions. But before we get there, I like to bring you to my favorite segment of the podcast, where Jeffrey usually never gives me a direct answer. Jeffrey, for $1 million, can you guess the budget of this movie?
I can't estimate these things. Barry Lyndon was made on a budget of what, $12 million?
Yeah, crazy. We did not talk enough about that. The movie was made on $12 million. Insane.
Yeah, epic in scope. Surely. This movie didn't need. I guess we have to adjust for inflation. And I guess in the grand scheme of things, like 12 million isn't a lot of money for a blockbuster movie to be made for. You know what? It's going to go Barry Lyndon numbers.
So 12 million?
Yeah, I'm staking my flag in the ground
Wow.
on 12 million.
The closest to not giving an answer, just using last week's answer. Well, I was trying to help you out by giving you a hint. When I said, I'll give you $1 million, it in fact was made for $1 million.
Oh, but see, that makes more sense. That makes more, I have no sense for money, guys. I went to film school, but I still can't guess these things correctly. Don't judge me too harshly.
They're all arbitrary. I feel like if I see a movie, I'm like, $200 million. So I've really been surprised with some of the budgets of these movies and being like, nope, that's not a crazy amount of money. It brought in almost $3 million, so it did pretty solid. Interesting, it was originally greenlit for $500,000. And then once production got rolled, they gave double the allowance, the budget. Not entirely sure why, but
they must have really believed in the project about halfway through.
Yeah, I guess so. For our cast, we have Natasha Lyonne, who I was watching this movie and I was like, why does this dang girl, Megan, our main character, plays the cheerleader, look so freaking familiar? And I realized I know this actress from a TV show you and I watched together. Our friend Aaron, Dollhouse. Oh, Russian Doll.
Great show, I think.
I only watched the first 2 episodes and I actually didn't like it. I stopped watching it. But I did think she was a funny actress. But the whole first bit of the movie, I was like, why do I think she needs to have red hair? I don't know what it is because she has blonde hair in the movie. But it's because I don't know if the actual actress, Natasha, has red hair. Who has the name Natasha and doesn't have red hair? But at the bare minimum in the movie or the TV show Russian Doll, she has red hair. That's what I know her from. So she plays Megan, our main lead, the cute blonde cheerleader who turns out to be gay. And then we have Clea Duvall, who plays Graham Eaton, the female love interest. Kathy Moriarty, which is an evil person name, absolutely fits our evil bad guy. She plays Mary Brown, who is the kind of female dictator in charge of the conversion camp that Megan goes to. And then we have RuPaul Charles, who plays Mike, the assistant who is definitely still not gay at the conversion camp therapy.
Watching this movie, it made me think of a story that I had read a while ago. I can't remember any of the names, but there was an up-and-coming actress in the 90s who people were absolutely raving about, and people thought that she had a great career ahead of her. And then she played a role in a movie where she was a gay person. Now, I don't know if she is gay in real life, but that was a role that she played. And then from that point on, she was typecast as the lesbian woman, and she didn't really get those opportunities that she otherwise would have gotten had she stayed away from that role. And so I do think that's tragic. I wondered if maybe this was the movie they were talking about, and maybe if Natasha Lyonne was that actress.
If anything, I could almost see it more. Again, I have no idea if this is true, but I could definitely see it more with Clea Duvall's character, who played the love interest, because something interesting was Jamie Babbit went on record saying that she wanted to write a movie from the non-butch lesbian's perspective. Because she's like, up until then, she's like, we have all of these melodramas of these butch lesbians. She's like, well, a lot of females that are in lesbian relationships, there's the other coin to it. There is often the preppy, loves pink, loves lipstick, kind of girly girl. And so she wanted to tell it from that perspective. So I wonder if it was more of the butch lesbian played by Clea Duvall who got typecasted, because she did seem like a generic lesbian character.
Well, it might not even be this movie too, though, but it is interesting to think about because we see Rufio playing a gay man. Rufio from Avatar: The Last Airbender, from I think it's called Hook with Robin Williams. And I don't know how many live action roles he got after this movie, but he for sure hit it big in the voice acting space. So he was able to branch out.
When you say Rufio, you mean Dante Bosco?
Yeah. Rufio is his character in
Hook.
And Hook.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, I love Dante Bosco. I'm a big fan of just Avatar: Last Airbender in general, but they have a podcast, him and the voice actors from Legend of Korra, that I listen to frequently. So as soon as I heard his voice, it was funny watching live action Zuko make out with a dude. That was not on my bingo card for 2026.
No, I mean, I thought that his character was fantastic and funny. And honestly, I wish that we'd seen more of him, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, I am happy he returned after he got kicked out. I was
Yeah.
like, bye, Dante Bosco. But then he came back and I was very happy. But okay, so if you guys don't know about this movie, it's a cult classic movie from 1999. And I'm going to give you a little synopsis. Megan is a typical pom-pom shaking high school cheerleader. There's just one problem. Her parents and friends are convinced she's a lesbian. Packed off to two directions, a hilarious, campy, candy-colored conversion camp, Megan is tasked with finding her femininity through house cleaning and heterosexuality. But the plan backfires spectacularly when she meets the rebellious Graham, and Megan realizes that being herself is the only thing worth cheering for. So going into this movie, Jeffrey, I almost knew nothing. And I was so surprised by how aggressive and on point the satire was, but also just like the overall tone and vibe of the movie. Like we open up with this sexualized montage of Megan and her cheerleading group doing cheers, but it's close-ups on their butts, on their breasts, and it's a little bit off-putting from the very get-go. And that tone doesn't shift. They keep this pretty sexualized theme, considering the satire that it's leaning into, the idea of how the LGBT community was grossly overlooked and marginalized up until this point in film history. And that was another thing that Babbit kind of went on saying, like, not only is there an issue with film on a race level, like only white people and it's male dominated, but films lack diversity in this time and age. So Jamie Babbit not only wanted to cast people of the LGBT community, but also a lot of non-white people, which is why Dante Bosco is in it. Because she's like, I want an Asian, I want a Hispanic, I want like a European. And so it's really cool to see that this movie is pushing back on a lot of the stereotypes. But as far as just like the aggressive campiness of it, did that take you a bit far back when you first started the movie?
It didn't really take me back because I was kind of expecting some campiness. I mean, the title is But I'm a Cheerleader. And the premise is just so full of camp. So I was expecting this kind of comedy, not taking itself too seriously, but also handling serious topics in a way that is meant to be meaningful.
That's fair. I think I just was surprised because I don't know. I don't watch a lot of campy movies. They're not usually like campy satirical movies. They're not usually my cup of tea. And I don't know. I thought not this movie wasn't wholesome, and not that I didn't enjoy it, but it wasn't the vibe I thought it was going to be. So just when we opened with that pretty aggressive, I feel, opening, and then going into her like making out with her boyfriend and zoning out, thinking about all of the girls, was very funny, but very jarring to me.
It did feel like a typical late 90s, early 2000s rom-com, maybe directed towards a teen audience or so, one that is wanting and expecting a little edge. It did feel very much of his time, which is so interesting given the subject matter, which is ahead of its time in a lot of ways.
Which is honestly one of my big questions. I feel like 1999, that's the year I was born. And then I remember going all throughout like middle school and a little bit in high school. That's when it kind of started dying off, when like you just would use gay and homo or even more aggressive lingo as just like a normal conversation. And then it started to come about as like, this is really hurtful and offensive, and it fell away. But again, that's like 2010, 2012. This is like ahead of its time in 1999. The jokes they were making and the satire they were making fun of. How do you think that the director was able to get away with telling the story in 1999 without like offending its audience so much, but also not pandering to the other side?
I think it's all in the camp. I think it's the genre. I think that the movie being a comedy opens itself up naturally to a broader audience and is more inviting for that reason. Like everyone likes to laugh. Everyone wants to laugh. And this movie is genuinely funny at points. And so if they had tried a more serious, more dramatic approach, I don't know if it would have had as much broad appeal. Granted, again, this is a cult classic, and so I don't know how well it was received in its day. In fact, you probably listed out this number, but how much did it make in the box office?
About 2.6 million. And I think it made it pretty quickly. Like its opening week, it did really well. It's also interesting because it originally had, I think, N17 rating, which would have hurt its ability to be seen by people, which would have hurt its how many people that would have seen it, how much money it would have made. But Jamie Babbit was really fighting for it to be an R movie. And I think she even had a whole segment in a documentary where someone was doing a documentary about the rating system of movies. And they were having a discussion of like movies that sexualize the same gender are often viewed much harsher in the critic's eyes. So maybe the exact same scene, the same sex scene between a man and a guy will get you an R-rated movie, but the same sex scene between a man and a man or a woman and a woman will get you an N17 rating. So that's just an interesting concept. And I wonder if that's more or less fallen away as like the rating system has like kind of evened itself out over the years. Like we were talking about last episode, if you're filmed in the 1970s before the studio rating system was really a thing, you could show like full male and female frontal nudity and it would still be PG because that's all that existed.
No, I mean, here's the thing is this movie didn't feel like a rated R movie to me. In fact, I was a bit surprised hearing you say that. Granted, they do use the F slur. It didn't show like a ton of graphic nudity. It didn't show any graphic nudity, really. It suggested things, it implied things. That reads to me more like a PG-13 film. But even PG-13 films are permitted one fuck, right?
Not one of the other F slur, but they could say that one because that one's not a slur.
But I mean, I guess it goes to show that there is some measure of arbitrariness when it comes to the rating system. It's not completely arbitrary.
Yeah, I think for me, where the uncomfortability came in is because, and maybe I wouldn't have felt this way if I was the target audience, 5-6 years ago, but there was certainly a level of uncomfortability with the fact that they were presented as all teenagers. Now, granted, I think there is a throwaway line at the very beginning of the movie, like you're 18, to probably make it less weird. Like to think, these are all seniors who are 18-year-olds, but still, I think there was a little bit of oddness of not like judgmenting to the director. I think it's fine. I don't think they did anything weird or inappropriate, but I just found myself in the sex scene moments, or not even sex scenes, but like sexual moments, being like, oh, these are all like children.
I mean, they do explicitly say that she's 17 at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, is it 17?
It's 17.
Okay, well then never mind.
Yeah.
Bad job, director. No.
No, I just feel like there are other teen comedies, teen rom-coms that are more raunchy than this. And I don't know if they get that same rating, but they're still clearly made for a teenage audience because they lean into the kind of humor, kind of raunchy, edgy humor that teens typically enjoy and perhaps aren't allowed to enjoy in more official settings.
Which maybe just goes to show there is a bias. If it is same sex, it is considered more raunchy in people's eyes in general. I'm not sure. But I do appreciate, because even though you did point out like this is a cheesy, kind of gimmicky 90s hypersexualized movie in some degree, that a lot of 90s movies were to cater towards teenagers who are very sexually active. But it's not catered in the normal way, like Jamie Babbit is breaking those stereotypes of like a guy or a girl watches this movie because there's hot scenes with the opposite gender, but like there wasn't really any hot, sexy scenes. Like the thing that made it rated R is like, yes, the F slur and then talking a lot about sex, but the way they interact with sex is usually very uncomfortable. Like the simulated sex scene at the end between men and women, just super, super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that, even though it is, I guess I don't want to even say raunchy, because when I think raunchy, I think horny. This movie wasn't necessarily really horny, as it was using sex to kind of have this conversation about this, again, marginalized community.
I mean, how can you, I don't know if that's true. I was about to say, how can you talk about, sexual orientation and gender identity without at least adjacently discussing sex. But I mean, there are ways to do it.
But I feel like, again, this movie did tastefully. It wasn't like super, it was aggressive, but it wasn't like untastefully aggressive. But when it comes to, but I'm a cheerleader, we're already talking about the campiness of it, the cheesiness of it, the humor, the satire of it all was so great. I think for me, it really is my favorite part of the film is the ongoing jokes that really shed light on how kind of the right perspective, the extreme Christian perspective, really close-minded viewed this group of people. And I really love it because I like smart humor. I've gone on the podcast multiple times saying comedies are some of my least favorite movies because I feel like they're often very lowbrow, just some comedies riffing and improving off each other. But no, this is like well written, well structured satire humor. What are some of your favorite scenes of the humor and how it's not just haha, here's a joke, but the joke is a reflection of the story and making a joke about like the social commentary.
Yes. What is Dante Bosco's name in this movie?
I think it's just Dolph, Dolph,
Dolph. Dolph.
Dolf.
That makes sense.
I don't know.
I think when they're going around the circle and they're admitting to being homosexual, and he very determined, very aggressive, very masculine is like, I'm Dolph, I'm a homosexual. It's just his delivery on that line, um, I found very funny and very striking. And I wished that we had seen more of him wrestling with this identity issue throughout the film before he dipped because of his affair with Clayton. Because I think that that's where he's strongest comedically, is when he is the varsity sportsman and he's trying to be straight to make himself conform to this image of himself as a masculine athlete.
That one's great. I just like anytime any of the kids are in a room talking about their homosexuality or they're trying to be heterosexual is very funny and very on the nose. Was there any moments that were specifically satire comedy? Like it's funny because of what it's pointing to, like the greater conversation. Well, Jeffrey thinks I will give you my answer. I think one of the funniest moments in the entire movie is their whole gimmick about roots. So they have this idea, which again is the joke of like, if you're gay, it has to come from some source of trauma. It can't just be, who you are. And so they're all in a circle being like, what's your root? What's your root? What made you gay? And one of the girls is just like, my mom got married in pants, and everyone in the group was like, oh yeah, of course. Like, yeah, obviously that's the most sinful, most feminine thing you can do. And I really love that moment. And my other favorite moment was, I think Jeff was talking about this character earlier, maybe in the podcast, maybe just him and I are talking, but there's this female character who's at conversion camp with everyone else. And everyone's like, well, you're clearly a lesbian because she's very butch. She looks very manly, very strong. But halfway through the movie, she's like, I don't know why I'm here, guys. I genuinely am not gay. Like, I like men. I want to have a boyfriend. And the assistant at this conversion camp, who is a fully converted man who is very clearly still gay, he is just talking to her in such a serious tone. And he's like, no, you're gay. You got molested, remember? And so again, this other idea of like, if you have sexual trauma as a kid, it turns you into being gay. So very on the nose, satirical wise, pointing to like, again, far right Christian groups of the idea of like, you cannot be gay. And if it is clearly from a source of trauma. I really enjoyed those moments and how absurd some of them are, from like, I was wearing pants, so therefore my child's gay.
Darn you, Nathaniel. That second one was the one that I was going to choose. But no, that brings up a really good point. I really like Jan's character, even though she doesn't get a lot of screen time. She's the more butch presenting heterosexual. And it's like a coming out moment during the camp. She's coming out, though, not as homosexual. She's coming out as heterosexual. And when she admits that, the people around her refuse to believe her because she's presenting more masculinely. And I think that digs at a deeper problem with this camp, right? Where, of course, the point of this camp is to turn these kids from gay kids into straight kids. But it is part of a larger program. That's part of a larger program to make them fit within a specific box of masculinity and femininity as it's supposed to look, right? And heterosexuality is a part of that pre-established box, right? And hence, it's not just a matter of, hey, like, we're trying to get you to be attracted to guys. It's no, we're trying to get you to go back to the kitchen. We're trying to get you to like the color pink. We're trying to get you to be a manly woodsman. Whereas there's nothing inherently feminine about the color pink.
It definitely points to a greater issue with the system than just like the LGBT community, but also the whole mindset about the idea of sexuality and just, like people can like things. It doesn't have to mean they're a male or a female. Like a guy can like pink. I'm pretty sure a guy, I love cooking. Like it doesn't make you any more of a female or any more of a male.
No, man, the idea that Jan was being placed into this box of homosexual because of the way that she presents, but she is in fact heterosexual and she makes no secret of that. And so even here, when she's explicitly saying, no, I am what you guys want me to be, she's not what they want her to be in the way that they want her. And even her heterosexuality is considered transgressive because of how it presents. So I want to tell a story. When I was a kid, some guy in the neighborhood was giving out like toys that were going to be donated, and he was just giving them out to the kids in the neighborhood. And I was rummaging through this box, and I found a microphone. And I love singing. I've always loved music. And so very excitedly, I grabbed that, and I was going to claim it as mine. But as soon as I did, all the kids around me started making fun of me, calling me girly. I was like, what are you talking about? This is a microphone. As it turns out, there was very subtle Bratz branding on it that I hadn't noticed. And because they were making fun of me for having picked a quote-unquote girl's toy, that shamed me into putting it down. But again, there's nothing inherently feminine about a microphone.
Those kids robbed us of the next Ed Sheeran. Jeffrey, what you could have been if you had picked up that microphone.
Exactly. But it just goes to show that some of these supposed objective features of, say, like masculinity or femininity are constructed, are arbitrary. And that can lead to a sense of confusion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this whole movie is just different adults telling these kids who they are and who they aren't. And so, of course, it's confusing, regardless of what their sexual orientation is. Like, something that I love about the movie is the beginning with Megan. Like, Megan is just living her normal life. She's a cheerleader. She loves it. She has a boyfriend who she loves, but doesn't like being with him physically and isn't probably romantically interested. But I love when all of her family are like, hey, you're gay and you don't even realize it. She's like, what are you talking about? And just, we have this scene of her like cut to her in the car being drove to conversion therapy. And she's just sitting there so lost. She looks like a little puppy being like, I don't know what's happening. And it's because she hadn't had any chance to figure out who she was up until that point. And it's this whole movie of either her parents telling her who she is and then the camp director telling her who she is. So it is also this idea of like other people, I think, regardless of, like, again, maybe it's like the idea is sexual orientation with the movie, but I think, like Jeffrey said, a larger theme of just people constantly in your life telling you who you are and who you aren't. And it's good. Like, you want outside input to make yourself a more well-rounded person, and you want mentors helping you figure out who you are. But I think at the end of the day, it kind of has to be you who decides who you are. It makes me just think of the song by Pink Floyd, "Another Brick in the Wall," is something I thought would be a fun during a montage if they sang that song. That would have fit well.
Maybe speaking of songs, I really enjoyed the soundtrack. I don't recognize any of the songs, but I liked them, and I thought they were well utilized.
I felt the same way. Didn't recognize any of them, but this is the type of movie that does well with a soundtrack, with famous songs, like, just because it lends into the comedy and into the funness of it. And so I didn't have an issue with it, even though I don't usually like soundtracks. I like scores more, but this one worked well.
It was a very preppy soundtrack, which fits for the character and the context.
Well, we can't talk about But I'm a Cheerleader and not talk about the style. This movie had way more style than I was expecting, dripping with it. Did you find once we got to, because the beginning of the movie opens up pretty chill. Like it's pretty standard, like nothing too crazy standing out. You got your 90s saturation, but it's pretty simple. But then we go into like the second act and Megan goes to the conversion therapy. It's like Barbie world. Everything is plastic looking. Everything is just like neon colors, like the tree, like the house they're in and the nature they're in all looks fake. Did you enjoy this style and this mise en scènes, or did you find it too gimmicky, or did you find it was reinforcing like some of the themes of the movie?
I felt that it was perfectly appropriate, and I do think that it plays into the themes of this camp is a place of artificiality, and they're trying to impose artificiality onto these kids. And so they're making them do things that they wouldn't normally do, that they have no desire to do. They're making them wear things that they have no desire to wear. It is a Barbie world. They're trying to make them fit into these boxes of this perfect ideal that doesn't really exist anywhere.
What I found interesting about the visual representation in the movie is I felt it was a representation of Megan's character. I felt like at the beginning of the movie, you can almost break it into 3 acts. Huh, surprising how movies work. But the first act of the movie, everything's kind of perfectly sterile. It's not heavily saturated. We got browns and oranges. We open up with this perfect, dreamlike cheerleader routine. Everything's kind of picture perfect because I feel like for Megan's character, she's kind of been told her whole life, this is what life looks like. Be a good woman, be a good Christian, get into college, do this. And there's nothing inherently wrong about all these things her parents want for her, but she's very much a blank slate being controlled. Or maybe not even controlled, but she hasn't really figured out who she is. So I feel like the cinematography and the art direction follows that. Kind of sterile, pretty routine. And then when we go to conversion therapy, it becomes very Barbie-like, very structured, very manufactured, very fake. We're trying to fit you into a mold. And then enter into the third act when Megan kind of breaks loose and fully admits that she's gay, or in her terms, I'm a homosexual. Great scene also. And she admits to loving Graham and they fall in love. You still have the Barbie-like mold, but then the cinematography breaks it. So it shows that she's living in this world dictated by other people, but she's no longer going to be dictated by it. And there's a lot more shaky camera. Before then, in the first and middle act, it's a lot of static shots on a tripod, maybe some like steady cam gimbal work, but now it's a little more handheld. Now it's a little more chaotic as she is breaking free of this mold. And so I did think it was interesting how the cinematography and like the art direction told its own story visually as the journey that Megan found herself on.
Yeah, and I think that a really cool thing that they do is she starts the movie a cheerleader, she ends the movie a cheerleader. Right? Once she has come to grips with who she is and she's ready to accept it, and she is at the house of the anti-true direction group, I forget what they're called. She asks them, "Hey, like, I need a mentor to teach me how to be gay, how to look gay, how to behave gaily, I suppose." And they're like, well, "We can't really do that for you. That's something you have to figure out on your own." Right? There is this idea in Megan's head that, oh, now that I'm gay, I have to maybe turn butch. But that's not necessary, right? You know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of the movie Grease. Have you seen Grease?
I have seen Grease, yes.
Yeah. And so I think this is a very infamous transformation because Sandy Lee, I think that's her name, or Sandy Lou. I'm just going to call her Sandy. She is one character throughout the majority of this movie, and people are telling her that she's a prude, right? But she really isn't showing any indication that she is more than who she's presenting. And then at the very end, she decides, no, I'm going to be independent so that I can be with this guy. She feels very counterintuitive, and she completely changes her personality to fit into the mold of this is the kind of girl that would be Danny Zuko's girlfriend, right? And it just feels so out of left field that, like, in order to embrace her true self, she has to become entirely different. But this movie, it doesn't do that. It doesn't pretend that in making this acknowledgement, she has to become someone who is not her. No, she's still her, and now she's accepted another part of her.
Yeah, I love the scene between Graham and Megan as again their relationship is budding and they're under the blankets having the conversation, and Megan is like kind of fully coming out and telling her, "Hey, I like you. I want to be with you." And Megan tells Graham, she's like, "Don't laugh, but I love cheerleading." It's like like besides, I think what does she say? Something like the only other thing I loved is like cheerleading. It's the only other thing besides you that makes me this happy. And Graham starts to laugh, and Megan's like, "Hey, I'm serious. Like, yeah, it's true that I guess I am something that I didn't realize. I didn't realize I was gay, and it's gonna be different, but ultimately I'm the same person. I love cheerleading. I'm not gonna change that." And so I do love that there was a discovery that happened with Megan, but it was not a all upright, well, now I'm a completely different person now that I found this out.
Yeah, she's not making her entire identity her sexual orientation. She's recognizing that aspect of herself and then incorporating that into her wider picture of herself.
Which again, I think is just a great choice on Jamie Babbitt's uh, directing style and her influence on the writing of the idea of like this character is still who she was yesterday than she is today. She's changing, but when you change, it's just small parts of you. You know, you realize things about you were a lie, you realize things about you were true. It doesn't usually 99% of the time completely re uh, alter your life. She's still just Megan. She's still just a cheerleader. She's still just 17-year-old girl who happens to like girls now. Something that you mentioned at the beginning of the episode that I actually had one to tackle in a question. Vega also suggested I Saw the TV Glow. And while these movies, I Saw the TV Glow and But I'm a Cheerleader, share similar themes and characters coming to terms, or and I Saw the TV Glow, lack of coming to terms with their sexuality, they handle it in very different approaches. I Saw the TV Glow is this dark, upsetting kind of horror tones to it, and diving into the unsettling, upsetting nature of what it's like to be either trans or gay or whatever in the LGBT community, but not accept it because of the prejudice of the world. Where But I'm a Cheerleader leans into the comedy of it. It leans into the lightheartedness. And even though it is hard for them, they decide to make a joke out of it. Did you have a preference in handling the same theme and topic, but with a very different genre? And again, it's not like therefore all movies about this should be this genre. Obviously, that's not what I'm saying. But did you just have a preference on which version they went down, these directors?
Well, first, I'll say that this movie is so much more entertaining than I Saw the TV Glow. But entertainment isn't what I Saw the TV Glow was meant to be. And I think that this movie is more accessible, right? I Saw the TV Glow is less accessible. And so this is a good movie for opening people up to the idea of empathizing with this marginalized group. And then if you really want a truer sneak peek into their inner world and the turmoil specifically that trans folk deal with, I Saw the TV Glow is that. But if you're not naturally one to consume this type of content, then I think it makes sense to ease yourself into it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now having watched both, just gut reaction, which one did you enjoy watching more?
I mean, this one I enjoyed watching more, but I think I got more out of I Saw the TV Glow.
Okay. Interesting. I actually enjoyed watching I Saw the TV Glow more. I just like I like the vibe more. I really think even though it's an unsettling tone, the tone they were able to pull off with I Saw the TV Glow was truly immaculate. Really, really impressive. And I'm always going to prefer a drama over a comedy like 99.9999% of the time. So there's just that. When it comes to the two genres exploring, I can appreciate the comedy and the satire, but I'm always going to enjoy a more melodramatic movie diving into it. Especially I don't love straight up horror, but I love things that allude to horror. And I Saw the TV Glow was very much that. Gosh, that movie still sits with me.
Yeah, no. Likewise. Here's the thing. I may have enjoyed this movie more, but I Saw the TV Glow more as a film. And I think I separate those two things in my brain because you can sit down, watch a popcorn flick, and it entertains you for that hour and a half. And I'm not saying that this is one of those movies where you can just shut your mind off and um, engage with it in a way that just gets your dopamine high. But I mean, that's partly what a comedy accomplishes is it's giving you a consistent stream of dopamine in pretty intense hits with some regularity. Whereas that wasn't the intention of I Saw the TV Glow. The intention of I Saw the TV Glow was to invite you into another person's experience and have you grapple with the themes in ways that really challenge you. And again, this is a challenging movie in its own right, but it's like entry level challenging.
And the tone of comedy, I think, can allow the challenging aspects to roll off if you want them to. You don't have to dig deep into them if you don't desire to. But I Saw the TV Glow. There's no getting around the themes and topics, regardless if you agree, disagree, have been through it, not been through it. They're very evident. So I do definitely think, but I'm a Cheerleader. It's just an easier movie to consume and a good place to start. Uh, not to pivot too hard, but a character I want to talk about. I want to talk about Mary Brown, who is played by Kathy Moriarty, the director at the conversion camp. I really, really enjoyed her character, but something I want to talk about was I liked, again, irony. I liked the flip of the script of what they did because I feel like, again, so many people who have an issue with this group of LGBTQ and again, they say in the movie over and over again, like, what's your root? What's your problem that has made you gay? And I like that this movie flipped the script on our main character because Mary Brown has a son who is clearly gay. And I like that the idea is, what's your reason for actually putting on this conversion camp? And it's because deep down, you don't want your son to be gay. So it's less about like, oh, you have an issue, so therefore you are gay. It's more like you have an issue, therefore you're a homophobic person. So it's almost the opposite of like, of how people normally perceive it to be. So I thought that was a really fun way that they had satire in there with her character. But do you have any thoughts on her character?
I do. I think that that's a very astute observation that, yes, she clearly established this camp because her son, quote unquote, has an issue that she is very discontent with. But I also think it's implied at points that she's also struggling with some homosexual tendencies, as they say in the movie. I mean, at the beginning, when she's talking to Megan, introducing her to the camp, she's trying to get Megan to admit that she is a homosexual. And she does this by bringing up imagery that is very evocative of, just the sight of a woman's long, supple legs just get a rise out of you. And as she's saying it, you can tell that she's relishing in the language she's using to draw this information out of Megan. And it's a kind of forbidden relish, right? She doesn't want to really enjoy it, but she's allowing herself almost, even if she's not recognizing it.
Yeah, just fun flipping that script of turning it on from like one group of like, you have trauma pushing you this way into the other of like, oh, you're just in denial and that's why you're pushing your own agenda. Also, correct me if I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. The son of the director, who's very gay, is obviously in heated throes of love with the assistant camp director who went through True Direction years ago and is now a straight man who is definitely not a straight man. They're having googly eyes all throughout the movie. Do they get together at the end of the movie? They don't.
They don't, no.
I always thought there was going to be like a short scene of seeing them sneak off into the woods or cut to them, kissing or just something, but they always just are making eyes, but they never do anything.
I was expecting that too. Here's what I'll say. The son, he's kind of weird. And I'll tell you why. Right? One, it feels that he's more comfortable with his sexual orientation than the others because it seems that he's doing things to attract the attention of the guys at the camp, clearly on purpose, right? The way that he's stroking the pole of that rake, I think he's handling, and the ways that he very intentionally gives eyes to the assistant director. But the thing that makes him weird is he's doing that for those teenage boys.
Yeah, yeah.
And he is an adult, like college age, maybe a little older.
Yeah. See, there are. That is weird. I agree. Because it's either like is the assistant director, the black guy who's coming on to him, weird, and the son is actually younger, like maybe 18, or is the son weird? I don't know, but uh, I will say, I remember when I came to the idea when someone introduced the idea of gay camps, conversion camps to me in middle school. I actually had a friend's brother who went to one, but that's neither here nor there. But I always thought to myself, I feel like if you have a bunch of horny teenagers and they like the same sex, and then you put them in the room with the same sex, they're gonna have sex, and that's always been my thought. But I'm a cheerleader, definitely proves that. Hard science, hard data, right there.
You think that they would try to ease them into it, you know?
Like anytime the director's like, okay, pair up, and the girls are so excited to get paired up with the girls, and the guys are so excited to get paired up with the guys. Why would you not be like, hey, we're gonna get paired up, and you have to be with a boy? Like, okay.
Yeah, it's like if they were really serious about their program, then like maybe there are levels that you can get to. Is like at first you're with members of the opposite sex, and then once you get to a certain point, that unlocks the ability to be housed with the other girls, right?
I mean, they had a whole ranking system. They have steps 1 through 5. Maybe after you pass step 3 and step 4, then you could room with a girl. But no, they're just rooming with girls without supervision. I mean, granted, the director would come in the middle of the night with a flashlight and shine it in people's faces, which is an insane person thing to do. But it just feels like you're setting yourself up for failure right there.
Yeah.
Another relationship I want to talk about. Yeah, this movie wouldn't be this movie if it wasn't for Megan having this relationship with Graham. Like, this is what ultimately, I mean, she does admit before her and Graham enter into a relationship, she admits that she is a homosexual in an amazing scene when they're all sitting around and the director's like, okay, step 1 is admitting that you're a homo. Again, using this term because that's the term they use in the movie. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm not a homosexual. I'm straight. She's like, I have a boyfriend. I don't like kissing him, but I have a boyfriend. And then everyone in the group is like, yeah, but what about when you look at women and your thoughts when you look at women? And she's like, yeah, doesn't everyone have those thoughts? And everyone in the group is like, nope. And then she just like has a brain blast moment and just cries out, I'm a homosexual. That's another one of my favorite moments in the whole movie.
Smiling, crying, spitting, just the amount of drool that
left
that
she
woman's
just was
mouth.
drooling. I forgot about that. Yeah. Which also, I assume is some type of satire on the idea that like every person that's ever come out, because I think in media, because in media, if it's in media, it's always the drama. Oh, the kid has to come out to the right-winged parent, and it's always the conflict of the movie. So it's always highly dramatized. But there's also probably a world where coming out doesn't have to be the most dramatic or traumatic thing. So I do think that was another bit of satire of her being like super, super over the top with her coming out moment. But after that moment, and she's slowly accepting it, she really doesn't, I think, really come into this until she starts to like Graham. How did you enjoy the relationship? Did you feel like the relationship really was a big part of the movie, or were you kind of like, honestly, I could have done without it. It didn't need to be there.
I think that this movie would not have been this movie without the relationship with Graham. And I think it was essential for the director's intent of bringing Megan out of this state of ignorance about herself and what she wants.
I also love because earlier on, Dante Bosco, character's named Dolph, gets frisky with another boy. And Dante Bosco's character gets kicked out of the camp because the director's like, whoever was the instigator, none of this. How dare these kids who are gay that I let room with other gay kids kiss each other. So she kicks out Dante Bosco. So we learn out early on that there is repercussions to having sexual fornications with the same sex.
It's so weird that they were treating this like a game show. Right? Would you think that if the kids are, getting up to some gay shit and you're wanting to put a stop to that, you'd be like, okay, well, you need this even more now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a game show. If you won and you made it to the end of the season, you got your parents to love you. And if you didn't, your parents didn't love you.
This game show sucks.
Yeah, parents love your kids regardless. Be better. But this sets up this idea. If you have relationships with the same sex, ooh, you're out of here. So I love when Graham and Megan get caught or actually get turned in by their fellow lesbian friend because she is jealous of the two of them. And Graham and Megan kind of agree like, hey, we'll come out together, we'll leave, we'll start a new life. But Megan's the one, again, who is the more traditionally feminine in the relationship, who stands up for herself and says, you know what? Nope, it was me. I'm fine getting kicked out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm not going to deny who I am. But then Graham, who's the more butch person in the relationship, buckles under the pressure and she stays. And then you have the whole graduation scene where they're forced into these hideous pink prom dresses. And it's so weird seeing the butch lesbian feminized and then the really prissy girl in the relationship come and save her. And I just think that's another fun flip on the stereotypes. It usually would have been the opposite.
It's not the butch appearing as a white knight. It's the preppy girl appearing as a cheerleader, saying, hey, this is who I am. This is how I'm going to save the day.
Yeah, she didn't have to do like in Greece. She didn't have to become the butch lesbian to save the day. She stayed herself. She used cheer, what she loved. Yeah, I thought that was a really nice storytelling moment as well. Jeffrey, you've gone on record multiple times saying that you have a hard time with cringe humor. I feel like this movie had some cringe moments. Were there any moments that you found particularly hard to watch because of the cringiness?
You know what? I didn't have as much a problem with this movie. I think the cringe humor that gets to me, I can't handle secondhand embarrassment. And especially moments of awkward silence, right, between characters where the camera really forces you to sit. Like in that moment, that really gets me. But this movie didn't really do that. I think its editing style was pretty quick and it kept things moving fairly well. So I think the pacing made this bearable for me.
Agreed. Yeah, and it's a short movie. It's like an hour 20.
Yeah.
It moves right along real quick. I mean, granted, done for $1 million, but it's another one of those movies that's like, it's the idea that carries it. It's a Thai concept. When I was reading about it and they're pitching this movie, they had like their elevator pitch, their log line in one sentence. It's two kids who are coming out gay meet up at conversion camp. That's kind of a high concept. Boom, you want to watch that? It's interesting right away. But that being said, even though it's high concept, low production value for the most part. Like $1 million is a lot of money, but you could pull that movie off for less than $1 million. So that's kind of inspirational in its own right.
No, for sure. It's a low concept film. You don't have to have crazy CGI for it. It's just you need like a camp. You need actors.
It's not even a camp. It's a house.
Yeah,
it's a house that they painted blue and pink.
Yeah, you need a house with character and you need actors.
Okay, I'm going to say something crazy. You know the vibe of what this reminded me of? Kind of?
What?
Dear Lemon Lima.
I think that this movie was done better than Dear Lemon Lima.
Well, I would agree to that. I don't know a lot of movies that are done worse than Dear Lemon Lima. maybe that's not true. It's not a movie I ever need to rewatch.
I think that there's something in the direction of Dear Lemon Lima that could have been good. I don't think that they're a bad director per se. I think that the script was lackluster.
I think for me, it's just the fun aesthetic and colors and also kind of the quirkiness that both movies carried over. Again, very different movies, but I was halfway through and like, this kind of gives me that movie's vibe.
I see that. I like the color palette, the pastel color palette of Dear Lemon Lima, perhaps a little more. It felt a little more distinctive. Whereas again, this one had that classic 90s, early 2000s rom-com feel that I love. I love that feel, but it is more like familiar. But I mean, they're both imitating a certain style, and they both capture it in their own ways.
Well, look at us. We're watching so many movies. We're able to compare it to two different movies we've reviewed on the podcast. I saw The TV Glow and Dear Lemon Lima. very drastically different movies.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I mean, I'm getting to know so many different movies through this podcast. I'm watching more movies than I've ever watched before.
That's the best part about the podcast, getting to watch movies. And I look forward to in future episodes where we can watch a movie and be like, this movie reminds me of But I'm a Cheerleader. And I look forward to that. And maybe it will be next episode, which Jeffrey will spin his wheel just a minute and tell us. But I think that's a good segue into our holy moments, kind of wrapping up the episode. Jeffrey, of this deep, beautiful movie, what is your holy moment?
I think that this movie broaches a topic that was not very widely discussed around the time that it came out in a way that is very approachable and very consumable. And I think that that was very effectively done. And so I think I would say that would be my holy moment. It's not a particular moment, but just overall execution and the effect of being consumable while also tackling themes that are or would have been more dangerous to tackle.
I mean, I think it's what makes this movie a cult classic. I think it's what put it on as the zeitgeist. If this was made more recently, it wouldn't have mattered as much or even been as appropriate. It's because it was taking such dangerous liberties with what it was saying at the time period that made it so good. So it's a great holy moment. I think for me, it's just like a really weird one, but like it just stood out to me in the moment. And so this one I'm just going with my gut. The scene where after they have the intervention, where her family, her friends, her boyfriend show up and they're all like, Megan, you're gay. And she's like, no, I'm not. And they're like, yes, you are. You're going to conversion therapy camp. And she's like, there's no way I'm going to that camp. Cut to a fun little cut of her sitting in the car going to therapy camp. And there's this like soft kind of mellow music. And she's just sitting there. And you can just tell how confused and sad she is. And we all know at this point in the movie, like so early on within the first minute of the movie, that she is gay. So we as the audience know that she is gay and we know she's so confused. And just in that moment, I really connected with her. It really made me love the character of Megan, feeling so lonely, being like, how could I be so betrayed by my family? But she doesn't even realize that she really is gay and hasn't come out yet. And it probably all is swirling around to just create this absolute loneliness and confusion. And she just was walking around so confused, like a little puppy dog. So I don't know. I just really liked that moment. And it resonated with me. It made me feel for her character.
That is a good moment. No, that's surprisingly somber.
Yeah, it was very somber. I feel like it cut to her and it was like sad music and she just looked so lost. And again, it was this unidentifiable lostness that she wasn't even aware of. But I feel like to me, the directing and acting really came through. And so I was aware of the audience. Well, very good. Well, hey, Christopher Vega, we watched this movie for you. You are welcome. And for you audience at home. It was a good time. Jeffrey, you have a wheel to tell us what to watch next week. Maybe something a little more dramatic or maybe something silly too.
Indeed I do. Wouldn't it be something if I got Rugrats in Paris, which is Vega's other pick?
That man is crazy. Having us watch But I'm a Cheerleader and Rugrats in Paris 2. Diabolical picks.
Diabolical. Well, I'm excited. Did you grow up watching Rugrats?
No, they're scary to me. They're the definition of Uncanny Valley.
Well, they do look pretty
I want to
ugly.
scratch my eyeballs out.
Yeah.
I've never seen any of it.
Well, thankfully, I just spun the wheel. We're not watching that movie.
Thank God.
What we're watching
Amadeus.
instead, yes. Well, you said it. It's Amadeus.
I guessed it. I just felt it in my bones.
Yeah, well, maybe it was
Good.
the shit-eating grin that I had because I'm very excited to watch this movie. The category is been on my watch list, Letterboxd watch list forever. It's one of those movies where I'll probably disappoint myself because my expectations are too high, and so I'm trying to settle it down. But I hope this is another Barry Lyndon where I come in wary of my own expectations and then I am blown out of the water.
That's a good way of doing it. It's hard, guys, doing the podcast and having expectations, either because you're disappointed or maybe because it's a movie you really want to review and then you let yourself down. I feel that all the time with the episode of RRR, one of my favorite movies of all time. We got to redo it. I just feel like I didn't do justice on the podcast, but it is fun. I feel like you had two very similar movies back to back, older movies, 3-hour long, kind of longer epics with Barry Lyndon and now Amadeus. So we're really getting into the nitty gritty and what a back to back with But I'm a Cheerleader and then Amadeus.
Yeah, I mean, kind of similar time frames too of not but I'm a cheerleader and Amadeus, but Amadeus and Barry Lyndon.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, I don't think they are. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But this has been on my watch list forever as well. It's been on there since like freshman year of college when my roommate, who was a music major, was like, "Oh man, you got to watch Amadeus." So when I got to film school, I downloaded Letterbox, and that was probably like the 10th movie I ever added.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Wit, who was also Jeffrey's roommate at one point.
Yeah. More
Hi,
directly than
Wit.
my roommate.
If you're
Hi.
listening to us,
Hi.
we're gonna watch Amadeus, and let's say it's for you. You're a good person, Wit. We love you.
We love you, Wit. Can't wait for you to hear this. Hope we make you proud.
Also, if you haven't seen But I'm a Cheerleader, Wit, you should go watch it. You would really like it. Okay, anyways, enough of that. Well, sweet. I think that's everything. Again, surely you're a movie lover if you're gonna watch us review But I'm a Cheerleader, and then next week watch us review Amadeus. They're truly only movies for Chads. Come back next week as we review Amadeus, The Life of Mozart. That's really all I know that it's about. I've actually seen a bunch of reels recently within the past like 3-4 weeks just come out of nowhere of just scenes of it. But I've been trying to avoid it because I want to be surprised. But until next time, if you haven't worn pink in a little while, regardless if you're a guy, a girl, straight, gay, whatever, you should go put on a pink shirt. You should go out and get some ice cream and you should enjoy your day and come back next week and listen to Amadeus. Until next time, wear some pink, get some rest, stay holy.